Well, good afternoon. It's good to see all of you. We appreciate being invited by LACNIP and the neighborhood associations to come here at the health clinic to conduct our quarterly city focus meeting. I've got several city staff with me. Our normal way of conducting this is to have each of them make some remarks about current activities in their departments, and we can open it up for any questions that you might have. I think while we're certainly here in this facility, and Janice, to you and your staff and the board, we appreciate all that's going on here. We certainly want to call attention to the work that actually was in the paper just this morning with Activate Allen County. There has been an effort that has been launched about 15 months ago to begin to focus our community, both in the city but also countywide, on those things that we can do as a community to really, for the long term, change the pattern of behaviors that are leading to obesity among the young and the old. And there's a number of things that, very concrete steps that are being taken. I want to just touch on some of those, and perhaps as we begin to talk about other city activities, we can elaborate that. But the focus of Activate Allen County is not just trying to give people pep talks about why we should eat differently. It instead has to do with what we need to do as organizations and as communities to literally create those spaces and organizations in our lives where we will do things differently just because we've been incentivized in some way or it's been made easy to do. So, for example, right now we're building sidewalks along a section of Elm Street from Woodlawn to Allentown Road. And Howard's going to be able to give you an update on that. Those sidewalks may appear to be, as it, you know, if you go way back in Lima's history, there was once an agreement that that portion of the town would be annexed to the city if sidewalks were never imposed on the property owners. So we've never had sidewalks out west in most of those neighborhoods. Well, what does that mean? It means that it's not safe to walk along Elm Street. It's not safe. It truly isn't. We did a city focus meeting at the United Methodist Church on Gloria 6 months ago, I believe. And I had a lady who lives right in that section come up to me, and we were just before we got to the construction activities, and her reaction was, I've lived in this house for 30 years, and this means on Sunday morning I'll be able to walk to church, because she goes to St. Charles. Now, that's the kind of thing, frankly, we have to be imagining all over the place. We had another sidewalk circumstance on the east side of town. It's not yet under construction, but there was a huge debate about whether sidewalks should be a part of the rebuild of 309 and 117 from the five-way light at Bell Fountain and Kibbe out past Eastgate and, frankly, all the way to the mall. And what happened in that discussion was that the city supported it, Perry Township supported it, Bath Township did not. So what's going to happen there? We're going to end up with sidewalks being built only on the south side of the street. Now, we know people from the city constantly They must, actually, because that's their primary way of getting around. They walk from the city out to those shopping centers on the east side. By installing it on one side, certainly we're helping some. But had the decision been made to put the sidewalks in on the north side of the block as well, it would have been safe for everybody. Now, when we start talking about Activate Allen County, those are the decisions we're talking about. It's how we build our community, rebuild those places, build new places, create policies around food availability and community gardens and all those kinds of things that will enhance our ability to live longer, more healthy lives. So, with that as a bit of background, I want to now begin to ask staff to come up and take a few minutes, describe what's going on in your department, and we'd be glad to answer questions. Gary Shealy, the Utilities Director, is here. He said he wanted to be known as the water man, not as the garbage man, not as the sewer man. He wants to be known as the water man. So, Mr. Waterman.
Thanks, Mayor. Normally, my Deputy Director, Mike Caprella, comes up and uses that title, I'm the water guy and stuff like that. So when I go back, I tell him, well, I took over the water guy, now you're going to be the sewer and the garbage guy. And I bet that'll get a reaction. Anyway, some of the things that's going on in the department, had a news release yesterday that we have through our city web page. If you click on various points, but basically it's back in our customer service area. We have now allow the payment of your water bills, your utility bill, through the internet. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, not on the day of shut-off, because unfortunately when it's in shut-off period, you got to make contact with our office. But any time before that, if you're out of town, you forgot about your water bill, you can go right on that website or, bring up the city's webpage, and you go right into that system, and basically they'll send you off to a site called Paymentus, and they'll work you through a process where you can pay your water bill. This has been a long request that we've had, and finally our technologies has got us to that point where we can do it. A couple other things in the water system, I will say that right now we have, if we didn't have the Williams Reservoir setting out there, we'd be less than half of our prior supply. We're on a slide right now that's probably going to go deeper than what we were in '88 and '92. And having that additional 5.1 billion gallons out there, in all reality, is going to ensure that we don't have to promote, basically, or put in place more restrictions on our water supply. So not only does it support development, things of this nature, but also I think we're into a time of droughts and those type of issues that I think that reservoir supply out there will be very, very meaningful to this community. We also have a granular activated carbon filter processes in place. It's really generating a very, very pristine water. It's going to allow us to meet a number of federal regulations that are just coming in and are proposed to come in. On the sewer side of the issue, we're continuing to negotiate with US EPA and Ohio EPA. I will tell you on October 12th, the mayor, myself, and all of our staff will be in Chicago with what's been described as a meeting of meetings, basically to get all the issues we've got with EPA resolved. Now, whether we get them resolved or not is yet to be seen. It's a very costly, probably the most costly process that this community will face, and it's upwards of over $100 million worth of capital construction will be required over a long duration of time, but it's going to impact the sewer rates. Unfortunately, the federal government is not providing any type of federal support, any grants or anything like that do it, so it has to come back on the rate base. The mayor's been very active, basically through the Conference of Mayors, and been to a number of our professional organizations, promoting to Congress, promoting to the EPA that they basically have to give us real relief, because these costs are going to be very, very costly for communities. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Water. Let me ask Chief Hefner to come up from the fire department. Chief Hefner is the primary user of Mr. Water's product.
If you've been to any of these in the past, you notice that Mr. Cleaves always brings props. He brings paper, and well, I had to do him one better. I bring people. I have with me is Mr. Sean Oden, and the reason Sean came by is at a city focus meeting a few months back, he attended and was interested in the fire department. Mr. Oden's visually impaired, and he was asking me about how does the fire department handle calls where you have somebody who's visually impaired or people with impairments of just various impairments. And it was one of those things that we probably should have thought about this a long time ago. He offered his services, and he said he'd like to come up and talk to the shifts and just give them the perspective of somebody that has trouble, has trouble seeing what they need in an emergency, what they, and what we can expect from them. And I don't know why, apparently he liked our people or what, but he asked if he could come up and speak to this group, just kind of give him a short overview of what he did and what he said. And I said, sure, it beats me talking. So if you don't mind, I'll introduce Sean Oden, and then he said he'd keep it short. Thanks, Sean.
I promise I'll keep it short. Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, I'm Sean Oden, and I'm from the North End Neighborhood Association. And back in March, as Chief Hefner said, I brought up the subject of, the fire department deals with a wide variety of diverse people when they go on their calls, whether it be developmentally disabled or physically disabled. And I said, I wonder if there've ever been a question how you deal with people that are visually impaired or totally blind. And I said, I would like to give a class to do their in-service if they would like me to at the fire department. So I met with Deputy Chief Bruce Black and set up 3 dates. And on June 25th, 26th, and again on the 12th of July, I believe it was, I gave a class to all 3 shifts about how to communicate with the blind and visually impaired. And we talked, I just told him basically about myself and what my condition was. And then I spread it out and told him that communicating with the blind is like saying, well, you can't just say over here or the door is over there. You have to say the door is behind you, come towards my voice, or this or that. In short, I must say that the firefighters were very receptive. I won't mention any names, but one of the firefighters was gracious enough to take me down and show me through the medic unit and showed me pieces of equipment that they had. And I never saw a thermal imaging unit until that day at the fire station. So the second time I was there, the 45 minutes turned into like a 2.5-hour visit. And I must say I was very, very impressed. So I said I'd keep this short, but before I go, I would personally like to thank Chief Hefner for bringing me here today. And I would personally like to thank Chief Hefner and Bruce Black for having me at the firehouse to talk to the guys. And it was very fun. And now I'm going to shut up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. It's right behind you. I'll take a few minutes myself, and thank you very much, Sean.
No problem.
And we appreciate what he did because he brought us some perspective we hadn't thought about. It's something we should have, and we hadn't, and I apologize for that. So with that in mind, if anybody else has anything, we are open to discussions like this because we're well aware that we don't know everything. We're willing to learn. So we open this up to the public occasionally. If you have something you think you could help us with, or we could potentially help you, give us a call. Call the fire station. Usually the best bet's to call Fire Prevention Office, and they'll get us all hooked up. But if you have anything that you want, you need, or you can offer us, we're willing. I do want to take a few minutes to talk about about the only big news we've had in the fire department the last couple of days, except for a warehouse fire and 2 house fires, has been the concept of a permit for a bonfire. And this got bigger than I anticipated. I thought this would be a pretty simple process. We'll run it through council. Well, obviously not. But I want to let you know, the bonfire is different from a small recreational fire. We have no permitting required for a small recreational fire. If you want to go out back and have just a little fire and drink a few pops out back, a small fire, there's nothing required. You don't have to contact us or anything else. We're talking about bigger fires like schools have before a football game. This time of year, particularly, I mean, kids like to have homecoming fires. They have pretty good-sized fires. And what we found is, going back and doing very little research, and it didn't take much research at all, a lot of injuries, a lot of damage caused because people have bonfires, and there's some commonalities that run through this. Usually teenagers, young adults, usually unsupervised, and then let's go back, this is almost redundant. Because it's teenagers and young adults, there's usually some silly action or something they've done that they shouldn't have done that caused it, throwing gasoline on a fire. I spent very little time. I spent 5 or 6 minutes just doing a Google search. I came up with 24 injuries and 4 deaths due to bonfires because they were unattended. What this does is it gives us a person that's responsible for the activity, so we have somebody to talk to. We know that it gives us the opportunity to go out and look at the scene. We're offering site surveys. If you're going to have a bonfire, and by bonfire I mean a stack of wood 5 feet high, 5 feet wide, and that's a lot of fire. That can be a lot of fire. We require that you notify the EPA because that is a state requirement. And by getting a permit, by coming to us, we give you all this information. We tell you what you need to know. We give you safety information. We give you the names and the addresses of all the people that you have to contact. But we'll also make it easy for you. There's no cost involved. We did take that out of the ordinance. We don't want to make this, a cost. We don't want to add any cost to your fund. But at the same time, we want you to be safe. We want you to make sure you notify all the right people so you stay out of trouble. And our fire prevention officers have even offered to come out and do a site visit. If you call and say, I want a permit for a bonfire, they will come out to your house, look around, see if there's any problems, make sure the location that you're looking at is appropriate, it's far enough from your house, there's no obvious things around, and they'll make recommendations and suggestions, all to keep you safe, keep your property safe, and that's all we want. I mean, there's no other reason behind this, no nefarious reasons. We want to keep you safe. In the next couple of weeks, we will have the permits online. As Gary said, we're doing more and more with this new website we have, and it's wonderful. We'll have the permits online. You can make a phone call, or people will come out and look at your property. It'll require a signature on your part and my part, and then let's go have fun with your bonfire. But again, if you have any questions about bonfires or any fire-related items, call the fire department. We're in the book. Do not call 911 unless you really need us in a hurry. But Fire Prevention Office particularly is the best one. They're kind of our gateway to the fire department. They have all the information, and they're the guys that we send out as our public faces because they're just nice guys. So if you have any questions, I'm here. I'll be here all evening. If not, I want to hand it back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Sean, for consulting with the fire department. That's the first I've heard that, and we appreciate your technical assistance. Chief Martin's here as well from the Lima Police Department. Chief?
Well, thank you, Mayor. And I will say that had to be a first for me, Chief Hefner. Normally when he's talking about how much people don't know, it's usually the police department. As always, we have a lot going on at the police department right now, but probably what will interest people the most is going to be the 4 new officers that we've hired. That brings us up to a total strength of 73. We do still have a budgeted strength of 76, and so we're still continuing to look for 3 more people to hire. We're continuing to work through the hiring process. We do have an active civil service list that we're working from. And now even though the Oh, okay. I guess I probably don't have to hold it quite as close. And I will speak a little bit louder. The civil service list, even though now the 1 of 10 rule did pass, and that would, in fact, apply to to these positions that we'll be filling, actually there are not, for the 3 positions we have, there are not 30 people left on that list. But there are more than the 3 that are required, so we will be able to get those positions filled off of what's left on the list. Of the 4 that we've hired, they are this week finishing what we call our in-service training, and that's basically where they go through training to learn the ordinances that are specific to the City of Lima, which the State Police Academy, obviously, they teach state law, but they do not teach local ordinances. Also, they do not teach anything about those policies and procedures that are specific to our department. So that's all part of that in-service training or in-house training. We also put them through a firearms qualification, even though that is done at the state when they go through their peace officer training. We do still require them before we ever allow them to hit the street to prove to us their proficiency. We also have some required use of force training and just different things like that that we feel are very important that they have and that we're sure they're proficient with and that we are sure that they understand before we put them out on the street. But they'll be finishing that up this week, and then they will start their FTO program or Field Training Officer program, which will be a minimum of 19 weeks. Once they've completed that 19-week period, assuming they've done that successfully, then they will be allowed to start working on their own. But in the FTO program, we start them out where the first couple of weeks they're not really allowed to do anything except for exactly what they're told. But then as it progresses and again as the training officers get a better appreciation for the officer's ability, then they're going to be required to start taking over more and more of the responsibilities, including the decision making. And that way, by the end of the 19 weeks, again, we are very satisfied that they're proficient to be out there on their own before we let them get into a car by themselves. And that is done, quite frankly, so that they can best serve the public. Okay, it's not for our sake, it is for the public's sake. And so that's why it's kind of a long process, but it's a very necessary process. For anybody that might be wondering, if you've heard the news about the campaign visit that is supposed to come here Monday, at this point in time, I do not have any additional information other than I have a meeting with the Secret Service tomorrow. So I've already had a few people calling me today asking about that, and I'm afraid I'm not able to give any more information on it. Again, if there are any questions, if there are any questions that anybody has, I'll be happy to field those either now or if you want to speak with me afterwards.
And our Public Works Director, Howard Elstro.
Thank you for having us this afternoon. Just want to comment on a couple of projects that you might be of interest in. Of course, many of us have already used Spring Street eastbound between Jameson and Central. Quite a change. And Elm Street between Central and McDonald will change from one-way traffic to two-way traffic September 24th. This is a culmination of one segment of an overall project. We initiated a study to see how traffic circulates through the Central Business District and through the center of town and try to find ways to make it better, more efficient, more energy efficient, as well as improve air quality. And we are using something called CMAQ funds, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality funds. So this is the first of 5 different phases of changing traffic patterns or improving some thoroughfares through our community. And what is of interest to me, and I think will be to you, it has been planned using a planning strategy called Complete Streets, which actually goes well in tandem with what the mayor was talking about, Activate Allen County and the health initiatives. With Complete Streets strategy, our engineers and planners not only look at a street as to how it's going to move motorized traffic, cars and trucks, but it looks at all forms of transportation, including pedestrians, bicyclists, people with disabilities, whether that be a wheelchair or some other problem with mobility, transit users. And we try to plan in engineering structures to take care of all of those interests. And that is why Spring Street now has emblems in the pavement denoting that bicycles and cars will use the same lane. That lane was made wider than a normal car or truck vehicular lane. There should be enough room there for both a cyclist as well as a vehicle. So we're going to use that complete street strategy not only in that project, but most, if not all, of our projects going forward. The same with the Elm Street project that the mayor was referring to earlier between Woodlawn and Cable Road. It will have sidewalks, and it might very well have access for cyclists in a shared lane there as well. One project coming up that we've been working on that this group might in particularly have some interest is what we call Phase 5 of the Bikeway project. Here is a handout, just that one there, that can be circulated. I have 2 extras that can be looked at as I speak. You guys can circulate that way as well. Our overall planning calls for an interconnection of bike and pedestrian ways beyond those that we have established along the Outer River Corridor. Phase 5 is going to link the current path that we have built in Martin Luther King to the park south of here, located in Central Point Business Park. It will also travel northward and connect by way of utilization of streets denoted as bike routes, Cook Park, and from there, Cook Park going north, it will connect using a series of streets and paths to the Ottawa River Corridor Bikeway. This is just one phase of an attempt to interconnect various neighborhoods throughout the city so that pedestrians and cyclists can have easier access through the streets of Lima, not only for recreation, but everyday commerce. One fact that we picked up over the last couple of months in the planning process for these projects is that 15% of our Lima population do not have access to cars. What that means is 15% of our population, when it comes time to get to the grocery, the doctor's office, school, library, or any of those everyday interests, work, they're dependent either on walking, cycling, using mass transit, or some other form of transportation. So we need to plan for those people's needs in our community, and I think our projects do that, and we are continuing going to make that a focus, a priority. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard. I think that was Chief Hefner that actually applauded first, Howard. Oh, he's an avid walker. There we go. Finance Director Steve Cleaves is here.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here this evening. Where we are in the finance organization right now is we're in the middle of the budget exercise for 2013. Before I get too far into that, I would like to summarize what we've done this year, especially recently. When we went through the budget last year, we had hoped that by the middle of 2012 that our finances would be confirmed to be strong and we'd be able to go out and do a capital purchase and get a bond rating from the rating agencies, which would allow us to do that. And we're looking at the city's finances at mid-year, and they did remain strong. And we did go out for a capital purchase. We purchased a fire truck, police cruisers, and some other capital items for the streets department, some work in the muni buildings and fire stations and such. So we were able to do that, and we were able to confirm the city's bond rating, which was good news. And going into 2013, we'll take a similar approach. We're going to be able to sustain our operations. We face some challenges, but we will meet those. We will be facing the elimination of the estate tax, which generally brings in about $750,000 a year in revenue on the average. That varies anywhere from $500,000 to about $1.5 million a year. So that source of revenue is going away. So we have to make up for that. We also have 6 police officers, which are currently being funded by a federal grant. It's called a COPS grant. For 4 of those individuals, the federal funds stop in the middle of next year, so we have to provide additional general fund monies to keep those officers on the payroll, and we will do that. So we do face some challenges, but our revenue outlook will handle that, and I don't foresee any problems. And we will go through a similar exercise towards the middle of next year. We will, again, look at our finances, ensure that they remain strong, that we haven't hit a second dip in the recession, and we will go out again probably for some additional capital purchases. Not to the extent that we did this year. This year we purchased $1.3 million of assets for the fire truck and the items in the streets department. Next year we will probably plan on spending less than $1 million for capital items. We do have an additional challenge, and that is that our block grant budget has been reduced over the years, and we need to top up the streets department budget. The streets department gets a considerable amount of money from the block grant. That's been reduced, so we're going to need to put in an extra $300,000 or so of general fund resources in the streets area. And again, towards the middle of next year, if things look as I think they will be, I think we will remain strong, we may be able to provide some additional funds on top of that in the streets area. So the city's finances are strong. We weathered the recession without any layoffs or furloughs, and we're looking forward to a balanced budget in 2013 and also in 2014.
And Rick Stolley, the Parks Director.
It's good to be back. Thanks, Mayor. Notice the mayor always has me speak after the finance guy because we never know if we're going to have good news or bad news, but sounds like a good forecast, Steve. I want to let you guys know we've had a great summer in Parks and Recreation. Tremendous staffing, both the pool and our playground program. Able to get some things accomplished this year that we just really haven't had an opportunity to do in the past. We're also able to get some things done this summer with the dry weather, not having to mow. But now we're paying for that. We're playing catch up right now, as many of you are at home, I'm sure. So we're working very hard to keep the parks where they need to be. We're a little bit behind in some of our areas just because of our rotation and some of the other things that we've got going on. But we're continuing to move those efforts forward. Recreation-wise, we were... as I mentioned, had a great summer, looking forward to a terrific fall and winter season with our volleyball program and boys and girls basketball, which will be starting here in the latter part of November with games slated for December. Through the help of a lot of people and a lot of you folks who are sitting in the room, we get some things done. We were able to do some work out at Robb Park this summer. Last summer we were able to get some things done at Hover Park with the neighborhood associations involved in that, so some of those things just don't happen. And as you know, as we look at some of the cuts we've been through, and Parks and Rec were one of the ones that helped balance the budget this past year, we were able to lean on some friends and get some help from some great people who stepped up to help us maintain some areas and then do some improvements in other areas. So, you know, again, those things just don't happen. It comes with a series of conversations and the networking and the partnering that we're able to do with Parks and Recreation. So without mentioning all those folks, because I know I'll forget someone, but a big thank you to everyone publicly for all the things that we've been able to do this past year with some of those projects. So if you have any questions or concerns, let us know. We are, you now can get us, as we've talked about a little bit tonight, on the web as well. If you want to drop us an email or shoot us an issue that you're having, you can do that to the new website. We are also looking forward to more interactive things on our website with shelters. And today you can even now you can download the forms, fill them out, call us if it's available, fill out the form, bring it in. It just saves the amount of time you have to spend in the receptionist area at our office. And we know how valuable everyone's time is, but if we get that stuff taken care of ahead of time and you just come in and drop it off, it's already set up for you, we move those efforts forward. So we'll be closing down some of the parks the next, not parks, but our restrooms in our parks the next 5 to 6 weeks. As the weather starts to turn colder, we will start shutting down our restrooms to keep those pipes from freezing and so forth. But again, continue to use those. It's going to be a beautiful fall. At least that's what I'm told. Get out and enjoy some of the great opportunities Lima has to offer. Thank you very much.
Now, there was applause led by neighbors, not by either the chiefs, Rick. So that was, oh, you didn't? I do want to spend a minute and ask, how many have gone to the city's website since we launched it? Just a few of you. I would encourage you to go to the website and explore it. And what do I mean by explore it? Do you know what a website is, sir? Sure you do. You've been on the net, right? The internet? Okay. Have you been to the city's website? Probably not. So if you go to cityhall.lima.oh.us, okay? First of all, it's now attractive. It's visually attractive. Lots of pictures. And if you start moving your mouse around to the different icons, some things happen. You get drop-down boxes, like there's an icon on the left-hand side for departments. And when you hover over that with your cursor, the drop-down box appears and you can see all the city's departments. So if you move to the mayor's office, for example, there's another drop-down box that takes you to proclamations that I've issued, or sister city activities, or other items. If you go to the Public Works Department, it drops down and it gives you streets, parks, engineering. If you go to utilities, it takes you to our water operations, our wastewater operations. So going to that department icon gets you into all of that. Then there's another icon that says, how do I? And when you hover over that, it gives you probably it asks you a dozen questions. How do I apply for a city job? How do I get an agenda? There are a variety of things there. Again, if you need to go there and just kind of play around on the site. And you'll find one of the biggest complaints we get is I can never find who I'm looking for. Well, you can go to the website, to the city staff directory, and now you can find either by name, you can search on names, you can go to a department, and you can find names and email addresses for individuals and phone numbers. The opportunity is there as well to sign up. You can go on the site for alerts. And if you want to be notified of all of the city's news notices, you can sign up for that. And those alerts will come to either your email address or as a text message to your phone. And those alerts, there's probably a dozen alerts that are now designed to be able to keep you up to date. So if you want to know when city jobs are available, you can sign up for a jobs alert. If you want to know street closings, I know that the news media has been interested in a number of those. They can sign up for that. So whether you're an individual citizen or whether you're an organization like the news, you can sign up at our website. And as Gary mentioned a little while ago, just yesterday we finally solved the issues for the utilities department to be able to take credit card payment for utilities payments of water, sewer, and garbage service. And I was talking with our IT director, Gary Wurst, this morning, and he said, like the number, we had 3 payments yesterday, and one of those was from a gentleman who was out of town. He was down in Dayton. He was going to be unable to make the 5 o'clock deadline for when the office was open, and his water would have been shut off tomorrow. So he was able to go online, pay his bill, and avoided a shut-off. I mean, it's really simple. We have to go through with each department now and design individual systems for credit cards. Some departments don't take credit cards currently, even if you appear. So we have to invent those systems internally and link them to the website in order for that to happen. And as Rick mentioned, in the Parks Department, we hope eventually that you'll be able to not just make a payment, but you'll be able to go on and, say, make arrangements to schedule the use of a shelter house. You know, lots of people, right now you got to come in, we got to go through schedules. All of that's eventually going to be available online, and you'll be able to do that, making it much more convenient. The license and permit operations eventually as well. We do expect to be able to have garage sale licenses up, block party opportunities, all those kinds of things that you as a neighbor and a citizen in our community would have to come uptown for. We're hoping to facilitate through the website, be able to save you time and aggravation by being able to have those systems in place for scheduling as well as for payment of services. So we're excited about it. We think, and I should mention, the reason we were able to do this is that we won a competition for an extreme makeover of the website. And that's literally what they called it. It was a company in Manhattan, Kansas that does this nationally. They have 1,100 communities that they perform web services for. And they had a contest last fall. And we registered for the contest, and we were one of 6 communities to win. And I got to tell you, throughout the process this year, it took us 8 months of work with them. We were kind of pinching ourselves the whole time, not quite believing it was as good as it really was. And it's a absolutely wonderful package of services. And part of our opportunity going forward is they not only have helped us migrate our prior materials and get it all up so that we could launch in early August. They now will be supporting that for the next 3 years at no cost to the city, and then beginning 3 years out, there will be a fee, but the fee is relatively modest. It's about $3,000 a year. So for all of the opportunities that are represented in this website, we are truly grateful and really appreciate all the help that they've provided to us, and I think the services that it will improve for everyone in the community. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you'd have, either about any of that or anything else on your mind. Bill?
Is there a fee with this credit card if you don't mind?
Is there a fee for payment by, the question was, is there a fee for using a credit card to pay for city services? There is not. We were originally setting it up in that way and ran into a whole host of problems. Some credit cards companies would not accept that. we finally just decided that it was more important to provide it as a convenience rather than to try to recover the cost of that service. The irony is, of course, now there's been a court case, I believe, that now allows businesses to do that same thing. It was only governments that had that opportunity before. But we're now set up to be able to take payments, and there will not be a user fee attached to that. Yes, David?
Is that payment going to be reflected like today, tomorrow? How soon is it going to be reflected on the bill?
The payment it's all linked in. The minute you make that payment, it's reflected on your account. So it's not a batch type thing. It's a direct interactive process that goes right in. Getting like that. That's an ACH type system, and that runs a little bit different by the way that the banks transfer things and so forth. One of the things I might point out, since I have the microphone here, probably maybe even next week, we'll have the same capacity through the telephone. You'll be able to basically call in. We'll hit a button. It'll move you over to Paymentus, and then the same process you can go through over the telephone using a credit card to pay your charges too. It just takes time to get all these things put together like that. The only one we still charge a fee on is the tax department.
That's correct, Steve? So if you're going to pay city income tax using a credit card, there is a user fee attached to that. Okay. Yes?
How would it be possible for the city to cut out the unnecessary alley ways, to cut down on some of the crime, like people going through the backyard, and just that the property owners on both sides access, be able to cut that property in half and access it to their property, so no one can just be going through the back ways,
Okay. Well, first of all, we have abandoned and vacated, the technical term is vacated. We have vacated alleys that are not used. So in some instances, there are alleys and public rights-of-way that have been platted, but they've never been used or developed. What you're describing, I don't know has ever come up, but let me share with you that as a public right-of-way, literally everybody on that alley would have a say in whether that could or should be done. So if you've got an alley where your neighbors are interested in vacating that alley for the purposes you described, meaning to both restrict access but also to take responsibility for that, then what I would suggest you do is get a petition together from those neighbors. And then we would need to go through the process with ultimately probably the Planning Commission and City Council to review that, make sure there's adequate public discussion, and if in fact at the end of the process everybody's interests are served. So for example, some people can't get to their property or their garage but by the alley. Or they may have an access issue that cannot be served otherwise, even though their desire might be to not have that open for anybody else. So we'd have to be very certain before we'd take an action to actually vacate for the purpose you described. But it's not impossible. Okay? Other questions? Yes, Sean?
Mr. Mayor, first off, I would like to comment that I think Howard and engineers are doing a good job in fixing the sidewalks so that they're wheelchair accessible, and I don't stumble when I walk.
Yes, sir.
And now I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I was curious as to, as
Yeah.
And that was my major concern, and I would be willing to meet with you or
Well, if you didn't hear the question was whether particularly for blind persons, the need for audible signals at intersections to assist. And I think you're correct, Sean. The new hybrid vehicles and the electric vehicles are silent, and you can't hear them. And I think there's a fair amount of discussion actually happening around that. I can also tell you that in the spring we had a summit which actually kicked off Activate Allen County. And we had a planner here by the name of Mark Fenton who was here to talk to us about what we needed to do to make it safe and easy for people to be pedestrians again. And he raised that issue with us about the adaptation of audible signals at our intersections, because you're right, we've made the pavement surfaces accessible, but we need to do some additional work. So I'm not sure where the city engineer is in trying to identify what our options there are, but I know it's on his plate for consideration, and I would expect that we'll begin looking at intersections where we can make modifications. We're going to have a major project coming in on Bell Fountain and Market Street in the next 2 years, I believe. And I think that there's time with that new equipment going in, there's time for us to be able to add that kind of device at those intersections in particular.
Because I was saying that if you have any questions, Mr. Mayor, I would be more than willing to sit down
Okay.
and discuss those.
Great. We appreciate that. If you'd maybe give Howard your phone number and contact information, we'd appreciate that.
All right, I will do that.
Yes, sir.
The city web address again?
The city website is www.cityhall.lima.oh.us. Okay? Other questions? Yes?
I live at 746 and when they put the gas lines in, they was up on our sidewalks, backhoes, someone come on a place to stick up about 2 or 3 inches. I talked to that foreman, he said he's gonna go back and fix the sidewalk back about 3 years ago.
Okay. Can you give your address again to 746 Oak?
Down the street, your house, next to it, they broke it.
They broke the slabs? Okay. And, sir, what's your address? 716 Oak. And were there others? Because I have to tell you, the Dominion is obviously doing a lot of work, but they have committed to come back and fix these issues. And they are. They are coming back. It does take time, but we'll bring them to their attention. Okay? Yes. Yes, sir. Okay, so, okay. That's what we're hearing from them, and we're taking them at their word. It's good to hear that. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'll give a negative on that. The person that got the contract for grass seed. Oh, that's
A lot of weeds. Now, this summer, of course, I don't know about your yard, but this hasn't been a summer to judge weed or grass seed. But, all right. Did you have them come back? Okay. I think if it remains a problem, you should call. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I live on the corner of St. John's and Holmes Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And the people that do the housing project down there at Whittier Place, I don't know
Uh-huh.
Well, every year when their trucks turn my corner here on Holmes, they always have their trucks up in my yard. I followed one guy last year and told him that they make a big indention in my yard, in my grass, and they never come back to fix that. And I mean, I just have a problem cutting the grass because where the trucks come in, they're so heavy, it makes the grass go up, and my lawnmower can't go over that, and it's just so uneven right there. So what do I do about that?
You need to be in touch with New Lima. Right, Barb Massa. That's who's in charge. Okay? Now we have some young folks here. What questions do you have for the waterman? Do you have any questions for the waterman? No? How about for the parks man? You want to know anything about parks? Well, what questions do you have for the mayor? You've got to be curious about something. No questions. Where do you go to school? North? And Liberty? Oh, Unity. Where do you go? And you go to Unity as well. What's your favorite subjects? What do you like to study? Reading? That's great. That's wonderful. Do you like to read? That's good. How about you? Math? Writing and math. That's terrific. Reading and writing. Okay. Great. Well, you're very well behaved. I don't think if I had my kids here, even though they're now in their 20s, they wouldn't be as well behaved as you are.
I think Mama had something to do with that.
Foster children. All right. Well, they're very well behaved. That's great. We also have City Councilor Teresa Adams here. Teresa, anything for good of the order?
If I may, this final time of the year. I attended all of the past Mayor Focus meetings this year, and I enjoy them to get updates of the city's projects, to hear the administration, but I also enjoy hearing the questions come from the residents. And it's been a very great learning experience for me, and I'm grateful that the mayor does this. LACNIP sponsored it this year and arranged these meetings, and the leadership there has been felt throughout the neighborhoods. And if I can also, I have two presidents of two neighborhood associations that I represent of the 5th Ward, Bill Jackson of Hope Neighborhood and Penny Daniels of Midway East. And they've been great for the area, for the community, and of the 5th Ward. And thank you for all that you and your administration's done.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Teresa, thanks. King. You're talking about the job-ready site? You're talking north of 4th Street Missionary Baptist Church. There will be the first project. We had expected the first project would have broken ground in the spring. We've had some problems with a variety of issues to get that in order, but we're close. Actually, we'll be going to the Planning Commission next week to split that lot. So the front portion of it will become a site for a 20,000 square foot building for robotics-related manufacturing, research and development activities. So we may not get ground broken yet this fall, but it will be no later than next spring when the weather breaks. We're still... the deadline may not be met with the weather because of all of the hoops we have to jump through the funding agencies. But we do expect that next spring that'll be under construction. Yes, sir.
Now, on the
Well, I think that is yet unpredictable. The situation with the feds in particular is that we have, first of all, 9 years ago, we submitted a plan to Ohio EPA for what was called a long-term control plan that would have had us spending $60 million for improvements, and it was approved. We worked with that plan and installed the initial grates on our CSO combined sewer overflows on the river. And that was about $6 million. So we got about $6 million of the 60 actually spent, and then the feds came in and said, nope, you're no longer approved. You got to do much more. The plan, as we've now submitted it, is around $105 million. But what they're trying to demand in addition could take us as high as $200 million. That's what we're fighting. So I can't tell you a number because I don't know a number. And my sense is that, and we have been arguing very, very publicly with the federal government about this. But it truly is something that is unpredictable. I can just tell you we're working very hard to try to get costs that will ultimately be affordable. At least, yes. Our rates will go up. That's correct. We're doing everything we can to keep them as low as possible. And the way to do that, from our point of view, is you prioritize, which means not just delaying things, but deciding what we're not going to do, and that's what we're fighting about. There are some things we're arguing it's not worth our while to do. We're also talking about spreading the costs over time so that, in fact, what we have to pay for immediately can be minimized. But it is the case that the federal government has a habit now, and has for the last 30 years, rather than giving, they don't just give us orders with a check to help us, they just give us orders. And it's called an unfunded mandate. And so that's easy for them. It's very hard for us. And that's what we're very actively attempting to minimize for everybody. It's both for households as well as for businesses. We certainly don't want to make our rates uncompetitive in a way that would move more businesses and more people out of town or move them to other parts of the country. That's a real concern. So I can't give you an honest answer to your question, King. All I can say to you is we're working very hard to try to prevent what they're trying to do to us. Other questions? Okay. Well, I want to again say thank you to Janice Sunderhouse and all the folks here at the healthcare, and also to Reverend Horton. Thank you for having us.
Now, look at global energy that's supposed to have been coming here since '96. What is the process on that global energy?
It's actually since '98, but we are continuing to work with them, and I continue to have hopes that eventually they will be in a position to move it along. I can also tell you that we have what we now have is a handshake with the company, and that handshake is it's first come, first serve. If they can get across the finish line with their project and get funding in place to buy the property, we'll sell it. If somebody else comes along that could also accomplish a major project, we will also deal with them. So we're not letting opportunities just go by the door. Okay? Reverend Horton, thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we want to thank you and your administration for this reporting this evening. It's been very informative. Thank you ever so much for each one of you. And not only do we have King C, not only do we have Penny Daniel, and as the Neighborhood Association president, and also Bill Jackson of Hope, but we have Bob Friedman, Boulevard, out west. And we have Bill Blovett of the north side. And we got also Nell Lester here of Lapnick. And she's here. And somebody I call and sort of worry every day is Connie Dersham, a neighborhood specialist. We want to thank each one of you being. Now, did we miss any neighborhood association president? Now, these are the presidents. And we thank each one of you for being there. And also, we have the Teresa Adams. Teresa is always there. This make I think this is the third one. And I've been following them all around. And we have had some questions, and we have people that interested in the community. And I see some people that I hadn't seen in a long while. But also we have Martin Luther King Neighborhood Association here. And we want to again thank Janice and the health center here for allowing us to go in out there and eat some cheese and some rabbit food, and which I told I would rather have me some black-eyed peas, cornbread. But nevertheless, we thank you for each one of you being here. But you know what we have been trying to do, really, seriously? Been trying to get all the neighborhood association, as Bill know, to come in unity, helping one another. Now, this is what we need to do. This is just beginning the start of getting us unitized, one with another, one with another. Not in competition, but unity, one with another. This is what we need, exactly what we need. Then, thus, if we do that, our community would grow, our city of Lima would grow, and Allen County would grow. So we thank all of you for being here this evening, and nothing else. There's some more of that rabbit food back there.